Even if you expect to get a refund, I think most of us still dread sitting down and doing our taxes. The annual filing deadline is looming, and we asked certified public accountant Barbara Trombley to come in and give us some last-minute tips. We started with word that there's a little extra time to file this year.
It's a fascinating year, at least to me. So April 15th falls on Emancipation Day in Washington, D.C., which is considered a holiday. So they have extended it maybe to April 16th, which falls on a Saturday, which brings us to Monday, April the 18th, which in Maine and Massachusetts is Patriots' Day. So if you are a Massachusetts resident, so if you're watching the show, you most likely are, then you have until April 19th to file your taxes. Might be one of the latest days I've ever heard.
Yeah, I would think so, several days. Before I forget, for legal purposes, with you here, we need to say securities offered through First Allied Securities, Inc., member FINRA/SIPC, advisory services offered through First Allied Advisory Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Makes it all legal for you to sit here and talk things over with us. We're glad to do that. Now, if you can't file even by that April 18th or 19th deadline, I think everybody knows that you do have 6-month extension, but you don't just sit back and say, well, I'll get it to them.
So if you owe money, right, if you don't want to pay penalties and interest, and I certainly wouldn't want to, then you would pay the amount that you think is due or a little more than that, and then you would get your 6-month extension. So you certainly can do that, but you need to file that as well by April 19th if you're in Massachusetts.
What would you advise someone as the point, the line, the time when they say, you know what, my life has gotten to a point where whatever it is I have, I can't really do 1040 easy form anymore. I got to go to an expert. I got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Do my taxes.
Right. You know, I think there's a couple of situations. One, I think for sure, is if you itemize deductions. So if you're single and you have more than 6,300 of itemized deductions, or if you're married and you have more than 12,600 of itemized deductions, then you will itemize. And so the IRS gives you a standard deduction, meaning if you don't own a house or you don't pay real estate taxes, something that will help you accumulate those itemized deductions, you would take the standard deduction. Once you cross that threshold, sometimes using a tax professional will help because every dollar you can find is going to save you money on your taxes. I would say that's one situation. On the other end of the scale, if you're a low-income worker, you might qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, which a lot of people don't know about. So that's basically a credit given by the government that is not a deduction, it's an actual credit, actual cash back. So if you want to look online and see if you qualify for that, that might be some place that it would help to have a tax professional letting you know about that.
If you are a professional procrastinator who is running around late in the afternoon, early the evening of April 15th every year, chances are your materials are all over the place. That's kind of a key, it seems to me, throughout the tax process. Be organized. When your W-2s, your 1099s start coming in January, February, get your stuff together.
Right. So for me, I put them in a file. I have a file labeled taxes that as they come in, and the more investment you have, the more envelopes you get, keep them all in one place. Make sure that, for me, again, my mortgage company doesn't always give me my real estate taxes. I have to make a separate phone call. But I know this because I do it year after year. Throughout the year, keep another separate file of your charitable donations, and just stick that receipt in that file. I think the biggest problem people have is they don't understand their tax returns. They just hand everything over to their CPA. And this is what I do with my clients, is actually look through the tax returns and say, hey, you missed this, or you didn't get this in here. And I think a lot of times people don't take the time to truly understand their tax return. It is complicated, but there are places that you can look and know, hey, do I need another receipt? Should I be looking for this? Should I be looking for that? If you itemize, for instance, did you know that you can deduct the excise taxes on your automobiles? That's not something, and a lot of times CPAs are so busy that they don't remind their clients. They just get the return done.
And you say to people, be mindful, look through your checkbook, your bank statements for records, for receipts, for things that are going to help you.
Right, absolutely. And know what you've been deducting. So again, if you're taking a standard deduction, you're not going to take any deductions for a charitable donation. That's only if you itemize. So once again, I know it's so complex, but take 10 minutes after your return is done, sit down with your accountant and try to understand what is on there. And then delve in further. If you do itemize, ask your accountant the question, is there any other deductions I should be looking for? Is there something else you can suggest that I may have paid that I can use to deduct? A lot of times people don't ask the questions. They walk away with their return in hand and don't ask those further questions. The CPAs are so busy, they don't have time to offer the advice.
I know you make a point of saying, check all the basic stuff, the things that are filled in, because whether you made your tax form out or someone else did it for you, bottom line, you're going to be responsible, right?
So the number one error is the wrong Social Security number. And guess what happens if you have a wrong Social Security number? It doesn't get filed. It sits there. And guess what happens then? You have interest, penalties accumulating because you didn't check. So check the very basic information. Check your address, check your Social Security, your children's Social Securities. Make sure everything is correct. It's very simple. Anybody can do that.
You mentioned talk to your CPA, your financial advisor, because there's so many things, tax credits, deductions, the average person really doesn't know about it. You mentioned child dependent care, education, earned income tax credit. The average person had no idea.
No, and these are all actual credits, which is way better than a deduction in my book. So, you know, there's definitely things out there to help your average taxpayer to save money. So yes, definitely look into it and ask the questions of your, your planner or your CPA or whoever's doing your taxes.
If the word comes back to you, you owe some money to Uncle Sam, got to pay it. But you say, then look further. Make some thoughts and planning right away for next year or this current year, really.
So even this current year, you have until April, 19th, we're talking about in Massachusetts, to make an IRA contribution. That directly comes off of your adjusted gross income and would lower your tax bill. So I know a lot of people, their CPA will say, hey, go make that $5,500 or $6,500 IRA contribution if you can afford it, and that'll cut your tax bill. So you can look ahead to do that. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, are people who get a big refund. I understand it helps you save. For a lot of people, they say, hey, that's the money I've saved all year. You're giving an interest-free loan to the government. Personally, I hate that. I try to come out exactly even every year. I don't want to give the government my money to hold on to for the year. So if that happened to you, if you got a big refund, go into your employer, raise your 401k contributions. I mean, that would be my first suggestion. Start saving more. You can then also raise your withholdings so that you have less money taken out each week, so that you're not giving the government too much money to hold on to. Again, just be aware of what is going into that tax return and what you can do to save money.
Well, Barbara Trombley, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to get everybody online, to get their taxes done best they can in time for the deadline. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.